Hey guys and girls, Nathan Birch here from the B.Invested headquarters. Today I want to talk about something controversial. Some of you guys and girls may know about this, some of you may not. And it is about this glorious metal called silver. So it's nice and shiny and whatnot, but it has other uses, and I want to tell you a little bit of a story about silver. So silver used to be used in many different things, predominantly currency. If you look at your money today, as everyone thinks it's money, but it's just a currency, it's a fiat currency, it's a fake currency. The currency represent gold and silver, your gold coins, your silver coins, but they have no gold, they have no silver. And that changed back in the mid-1960s, 1966 here in Australia, and over a decade it changed globally around the world, where slowly the silver was removed from the money. And ever since, silver has been suppressed. So, for example, a silver bar, this is a 1 kilo silver bar here. This thing here is about $30, $32 Aussie, $33 Aussie per ounce. If you go to buy some in the shop, it's about $50 an ounce. This is a kilo bar, so we've got about 32.15 ounces in the bar. So it's about, let's call it $1,100, $1,200 for one of these if you buy from the shop. So over the years, the strangest thing, right? If you go and look at all the food that's out there, so your food has gone up recently, your clothing's gone up, your electronics have gone up. I actually encourage people to try and find me something that's gone down in value. And it's very, very hard to, because everything's gone up in value. However, the cost of silver has gone down over the last 20, 30, 40 years. And it is artificially held down. And this is held down, I don't want to go too deep into context about how it all works. There's lots of YouTube videos out there, and I have talked about it previously in other episodes. This one's just purely about something that I'm seeing getting exposed at the moment. So basically the prices are being held down. There's a lot of people out there talking about the price of silver being held down, and gold, specifically silver, via a lot of ETFs. So basically exchange trade funds, and basically how the paper contracts basically. And there's been something out there you may have heard about called GameStop, which has being a group of Wall Street, this thing called Wall Street Bets, which is a group on Reddit, which went out to try and buy up all the shares in the market and push the prices up, so the short sellers had to come back and fill their orders. And there's been a lot of manipulation like this happening in the silver market to keep the price artificially low. This shiny metal I've been accumulating over the course of the last 20 years. I've got lots of it. I'm not going to talk about how many or what I've got or anything like that, but I have been collecting it a lot. And it's stored at all different locations. I've bought a couple here today into the office just to share, with everyone a few different things about history on it. But something very interesting is happening. So the price of it is held down, but why is it being held down? That's a good question, because if it went up, then the cost of everything would go up. If you look at where are you watching this video? You're watching it from your iPhone, you're watching it from a tablet, you're watching it from a computer, a laptop, an iPad, whatever. Each one of those devices probably has about 1 ounce of silver in it, or a half an ounce. If you go and pick up a solar panel or look at one on your roof, probably got about half an ounce of silver on there. If the price of silver went to $500, that means that the cost of all your goods would go up as well, and would see a massive hyperinflation. There is becoming less and less silver out there in the world, specifically everywhere, because it's being used in other electronic goods and electronic cars and basically any electronic device. But it has a lot of medical benefits, and is used a lot in the medical industry. So there is becoming less and less of this metal around, and there is rumors out there brewing that there is no silver around. And if you go to your bullion dealers, it's getting harder to find it. If you go to your coin shops, it's getting harder to find it. There is not much stock out there, and people don't want to let go of it. Why? Right? Because you've got people that understand how the currency works, and a lot of people out there looking for real solid wealth of where they can put their money and protect themselves in an event of an inflation or a hyperinflation scenario, which we're certainly starting to see at the moment. But looking at it, going out a few weeks ago, there's been talks that so you can buy your silver as physical, which you can take delivery of. You can buy it as physical and allocate it in a vault or in a service which wherever you're buying it from stores it. You can buy it as an ETF, or you could buy it as an unallocated fund, which means that you've got 1,000 ounces or 100 ounces or whatever that you've got purchased, which is a paper entry, but it's meant to be backed via the shiny metal, which there's allegations out there that the Perth Mint doesn't have silver, and that's an interesting topic. And I've got some evidence here which is really, really interesting. It's sitting right here in front of me, and I'm going to share it with you in a moment. I actually think that some of these rumors might be true because something fundamentally changed about 4 weeks ago from what was coming out of the Perth Mint. So over time, there has been different series of silver. So we've got sort of a series 1 vintage antique bar here. This is a 1 kilo bar. It is hand poured. You can see the sort of lines that are in it. It's stamped. And if you look at the swan, you can see it's a left facing swan. So when you look at the swan on the stamp, it's left facing. So they used to have them earlier on in the piece. You've got bars like this one here. This one's a 100 ounce bar. This bar here is a rough pour, so you can see the lines as well. So they put it into like I don't know what they call them, but the cast iron sort of molds that they pour it into, and they pour it in. It's got all the silver lines around there, so you can see where it has gone in. Once again, it's got a left-facing swan. So you get sort of minted bars like this. It's like a banker style bar. This is just purely for bullion and for storage. It's there's 2 series of these. This is a newer series. But I do have in one of my vaults somewhere ones that have got serial numbers on them, and they only add up to about 3,000 with the serial numbers on them. I've got a few with serial numbers on them, but that's a different style. Once again, it's got a left-facing swan on that one. And then more to the modern day sort of bar. So this bar here is one that's been out for, I don't know, maybe this has got a right-facing swan on it. I purchased this one maybe 2 months ago, maybe a month ago. I bought this one, and it came from a bullion dealer, very trusted bullion dealer, one of the most prominent ones in the country. As you can see, it's got nice smooth edges. It's a very nice bar. If you can look at the edges of it, you can see how the edges are. It's very smooth, and it's how they show in the description. However, last week 4 bars arrived which were ordered, and if they didn't come from pretty much directly from the mint, then I would have thought that this was a cheap fake bar. And I've tested it on an XRF machine, and it is a real bar. But this is what I received in the mail. And if you were to line these 2 bars up, you would see that they look very similar. You're like, well, Nath, what's the difference between them? Like, what do you want about? They're both a kilo of silver. They say they're a kilo of silver. They bang together like they're silver, and they're silver. Well, a couple of things about this one. This one here is the one that I thought was a fake bar. So if you have a look on the edges, they're very sharp on the edges. You can see the edges are sharp and they're not smooth like they should be on the other bar. So that's the one that I showed you, and this one here is nice and smooth. And that's how they've been coming out for the last sort of 10 years. And there was a series of this one with the left-facing swan that was before that. However, this one here has got sharp edges on it, which is very rough. Don't know how the camera is going to pick this up, but on the edges on both sides, very, very sharp and very, very rough. If we have a look in the middle of it, it looks like the bar is basically cracked in half, which is not. It's a mold issue. On all the bars, you might see on the side here, it's got black. It's got like this black resin or residue on it, which is very weird. I've never seen anything like it from the mint. You have a look on the front of it, it's got all this scuffing and marks along with the mint. And I'm still waiting to hear a response as to why this bar looks like that. And if I put them side by side, you can sort of tell, I don't know if you can see in the camera, the quality of the bars look very different, right? The edges of this bar are nice and smooth. The edges of this bar are very rough. The front of this bar is very beat up and damaged straight out of the box. The front of this bar is, nice and polished. I think that this has some serious production issues. From what I'm understanding is that it's come from a different mold. The other ones that have been coming out have got like little lines along the bottom, and they've got a little bit of a rough on the top edge here. These ones are perfectly smooth on each side, but the top is terribly rough. I think this bar has come from China. There is rumours that Australia Perth Mint has got no silver, or running very low on silver. And the production of this looks like it is something that has not had a good quality control. And where would that come from? It looks like, as I said beforehand, a fakie, but it's not. And if that was the case, then are our bars coming from China? Because going back about a month ago on Birchfeed, I did post that there was no stock in Australia. The buttons had been removed from the website. So this is what I got a month ago. This is what I'm getting today from the Mint. You can see a clear difference. You know, seeing them physically, they look very, very different. So the question that I have is, has the Perth Mint, should we call it, run out of silver? Is there a supply chain issue with collecting physical silver? If that is the case, it could be a bank run on these paper traded funds. If that is the case, we could see the prices rise astronomically. That is what got me excited from about 2001 on silver. That's what keeps me excited today, because one day this whole Ponzi scheme will implode. So I talk very often about how the property market's in a bubble, the car market's in a bubble, our food prices are in a bubble, everything's in a bubble due to the fact of the currencies being manipulated. So on one hand, we've got the currency being manipulated, more currency being printed, and obviously the devaluation, meaning the goods rise in value. On the other hand, we've got some sound money sort of instruments here, which are losing their value. How come they're becoming cheaper? I don't understand. How can you have these things going down in value when everything else in the world is going up? It is being artificially suppressed. And is this a point where something cracks? I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the questions below. But what I do know is that something vintage here, like they have changed the production of them over the years. This is an old style vintage bar, which would be like the newer one, but it's the old one. And never ever throughout history has there ever been any production issues. The quality control of this is absolute fucking dog shit. Like, I want my money back on it, but at the end of the day, I don't even want money. I don't even want fiat currency. I just want assets, and I want chunks of metal. So it's still a chunk of metal. And is this one of the last production bars? Is this one of the last production bars in Australia? And is this something that was the first of something that comes from China or from overseas? Because there is talks that the bars that are being produced and coming out are coming from China. So my question is has anyone else experienced shit quality bars coming from the Perth Mint? If so, leave us a comment below, reach out, send us an email, send us a text. I'll be interested to see what your story is. But that is a very substandard bar. Thanks a lot for watching, guys and girls. If you have any questions, hit us up. And if you need anything, hit us up, 1300 367 925, admin at binvested.com.au. Have a great day. Bye for now.